Hi everyone, this is Longbo. Today is November the 27th, 2012. I'm analyzing one of my games in the Burlington Chess Club. I'm playing white, currently rated 1587, and my opponent Benito Surya, currently rated 1472, is playing black. So I start off with e4 and he goes e5. So I decide to play the King's Gambit with f4. Challenging the center, and he replies with d5, which I think is the best move against the King's Gambit. So I go e takes d, and like I said in my previous videos, I do recommend to go e4 and and focus on development versus trying to keep that pawn to defend. So anyways, Benito went e takes f4, and I go knight to f3, defending the check threat here. So he replies with knight to f6, attacking my d pawn, and I go knight to c3. Now, obviously, this pawn cannot be really be defended. I guess I could have gone c4. That's the only way to defend it because there's the queen and the knight attacking it. But I felt that if I did that, it's like blocking my light squared bishop here, and the King's Gambit is all about initiative and development, getting that lead in development. So I went for knight to c3, so giving up the pawn, and he goes knight takes d5. So my plan now is to try to castle to get my king to safety. I don't like my king being on the open e file there, so I go bishop to c4. And talking about initiative, I'm always, every move that I make, I'm trying to exert some sort of a pressure. So right now I'm threatening to take the knight because there's two attackers there. So the queen is the only defender. So by going bishop to c4 there, I'm putting pressure on that knight. So if he moves the knight again, then I have 3 pieces developed versus 1. So he chose knight takes c3, and I go b takes c3 because I was not interested in exchanging queens, and plus if I did that I won't be able to castle. And this works out for me as well because now I've gained the semi-open b file, and plus the bishop has another way to develop. So right now I'm counting my development, so I have 2 pieces here versus nothing, and plus this pawn here is about to be pressured, and my pawn structure is not very good, but with the King's Gambit it's all about creating open files and preventing his king from castling. So he goes queen to e7 check. So I guess he's attacking right away, but I feel that that's not the best move because the queen is blocking the dark squared bishop, and if it was me, I would have perhaps developed the knight or the bishop. So now I spent I think 20 minutes on this next move because I was contemplating. I've already moved my light squared bishop to c4. And moving it back here seems like it's a lost temple. I was contemplating on blocking with the queen, and then if he exchanges, then I would still be up in development with 2 pieces to none. But in the King's Gambit, I feel that you need all your pieces for that initiative, because if we keep exchanging pieces, in the end, my initiative won't mean much. So I decided to keep the queens on the board and retreat the bishop. So I'm still up in development. So bishop goes to e2, and So now he goes queen to c5 with the idea of preventing my king from castling, and of course getting out of that bishop's way. He's also putting a bit of pressure on the c file here, which usually the double pawns they create weaknesses, and so I went d4. So with the initiative here, because like I said, every move I want to attack him, right? So by going d4, I'm hanging this pawn here, and I was okay with him taking, because then I would simply block with the bishop, and then the coordination between the rook and the queen is fine, and plus I'm developing another piece, and then now he still has to move the queen. So I was okay with hanging that pawn, and if he decides to retreat the queen anywhere, then I have more space. So I'm happy with that. So I had probably the idea of pushing a bit more, or getting the rooks active and all that. So after d4, he went queen takes c3 check, and bishop to d2, and he retreats queen to c6. So if you count the development here, he only has one queen developed, and I have 1, 2, 3 pieces developed. I have a open b file, semi-open b file. I have potentially an open f file here once I castle. So I'm okay, and I have the bishop pair here is quite aggressive. Okay, so after this move, I had the option to retake the pawn right away, but if I did that, he could simply start initiating some exchanges, and once he gets castled, then I don't have that much of an advantage anymore. So I felt that taking the pawn back can wait, and right now I only have the rooks that are not active. So I had the option to castle, which was okay, but then he would simply continue to develop, and then I think castling is not really a move that is in alignment with initiative and exerting pressure. So what I see here is that the queen and the king are on the same diagonal. So I was thinking of pinning the queen here, but before doing that, I would need to defend the b5 square. So I was thinking either a4, which I thought was kind of slow, and I don't know if he defends with this here. It's not really such a great move, and then now the pawn there is sort of the a rook is tied down to defending that pawn. So I thought that rook to b1 made more sense, and the benefit of this move is that I take control of the semi-open file to be used later on for perhaps a rook lift here, and then swinging the rook over here to put pressure on the king side, or even up here and delivering check here or something like that, or simply just having control of that b file. So my threat here was the next move would be bishop to b5, winning the queen. If he chose to I don't know, try to castle, right? So by playing rook to b1, I am indirectly preventing him from developing his other pieces. Of course, he saw that, so he went queen to f6, staying in contact with the f pawn. And I think that's the problem with taking that pawn there versus simply advancing the pawn here and really taking that square away from my knight. So now he's really wasting a lot of moves, moving the queen back and forth, trying to hang on to this pawn here, while I have 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces developed, and plus the pawn is still under pressure, and there's nothing at this point that is stopping me from castling. So I'm happy with my position, and so I castle short. So now my development is almost complete. The only piece that's not active is my queen. Well, the other pieces are not that active as well, but there's a great potential to create threats. So now he goes bishop to d6, trying to castle, I suppose. Just continuing development. So here, I was thinking, how else can I create threats, right? So one way is to simply get more space or something like that, or like this, and then try to kick away the bishop. But if I start doing something like that, I find it's kind of slow, and then it just gives him some time to get the king to safety and start to defend the position. So moving pawns right now is probably not the best thing. So I felt the only threat that I had here was knight to e5, disconnecting the bishop and the pawn here, threatening to attack the pawn, activating the rook, probably with the rook, just to put more pressure on the queen. Well, no, actually, even with the bishop, puts a lot of pressure on the queen, because then she's vulnerable to discoveries. So after knight to e5, I also had the idea of I was hoping that he would take, so that once I take back here, I'm gonna sacrifice this pawn here to really open the e and the d file, and that's the only way to make my queen active. So lucky for me, he took. Bishop takes e5, d takes e5, and I was really hoping that he would take with the queen instead of simply getting out of the way. I think a better move would have been to perhaps queen to e7 or something, and not really care about the pawn, because he's way down in development, and by going here he could actually defend any threats, because that pawn here is keeping the e file closed. So but I was really hoping he would take, so he went queen takes e5, and right there I knew the game was over, because the b file belongs to me, and now I'm going to open the e file, and the d file is already open. So now there's no way to stop all my threats. So I went bishop to b5 check, and with the idea of if he blocks with anything, the pawn there, the knight, or the bishop, then the queen is lost right here. I would simply go rook to e1, pinning the queen, and then the game would be over. And so with any pieces, if he blocks, that's what's going to happen. If the king goes to d8, it's the same thing. So I would go bishop takes f4 check with the queen, and there's no way of saving his queen. So if he goes here, then the queen is unprotected, so I'll simply take, and the only protected spot for the queen is here, but then the bishop is still gonna take her, and so he only has one other move, well, two other moves. So e7 is the same thing as just losing the queen there. So the f8, king to f8 is the forced move, and then now the finishing blow with bishop to b4 check, hanging the bishop, but it doesn't matter anymore, because there's no way of blocking this. So of course the two bishops are squeezing the king here, and there's no way to block that. So he can either block with the queen and lose the queen, or move the king to g8, which he did, and then now I activate my last piece, queen to d8 check, and then the only way to block is queen to e8, and then queen takes e8 checkmate. So I hope you guys learned a lot. This is a short game, and that's what I like about the King's Gambit. It's very aggressive. There's not much pawn structure and a lot of positions. It's mostly tactics, just a lot of crazy attacks, initiative, and I think this game shows how the King's Gambit can be very dangerous if you neglect development. And I think I'm lucky in a way that some of the moves my opponent made actually helped me. But I'm still learning, and I hope that my opponent Benito can learn from this game as well, and one day he'll he'll win with at the end of the game. He told me he should have pushed the pawn, so I think back to that position, if he had pushed e4, it would have been better for him, because I did analyze our last game, and it was the similar King's Gambit position where I had the initiative with the pawn takes f4, and so in this game it's a similar story, and I hope that he learns a lot from there. Okay, so thanks everybody, and I'll see you guys next time.